Okay, so stereotype me. I'm all work and no play. Drive some kind of big, cushy sofa on wheels. And listen to big band. Right? Wrong. Because I do play. Hard. And I drive a Lincoln. Yeah, it's smooth, roomy, and comfortable. But it's also solid and responsive. It's almost like they had me in mind when they designed it. Now, as far as big band goes,
the 2021 Lincoln Nautilus. For the 21 model year, Lincoln has given this car another mid-cycle refresh. Its cabin is all new. They've moved it in line with some of the other Lincoln product offerings like the Lincoln Corsair, Aviator, and Navigator. So a lot of this cabin is a carryover from those vehicles, so this is going to be more of an overview of this space. Your push-button gear selector, the way they've tiered the dash design, the way the leather looks, and the way they've designed the dash with this nice wood veneer that's separated by leather. The door cards are reasonably unique, and I actually really like what they've attempted with this cabin. It feels different than some of the German offerings and Japanese offerings. This has a lot of part sharing in its switchgear, and with its asking price of $68,000, it's a shame that a lot of its steering wheel controls, door controls, and all of that other fun stuff feels remarkably cheap. Now, the pros are this in the cabin. This has some of the best seats I've ever been in. The massaging function works great, they breathe well, and they're very soft. Not to mention, if you appreciate a higher driving position and great frontward visibility, this car provides that in spades. Plus, again, this being based on a Ford Edge, there's a ton of space in this car, the back seats are comfortable, and there's a reasonable amount of trunk space, particularly when you fold everything down. However, it offers less trunk space than something like an Audi Q5 or an XC90. Next, the other big pro is the Revell audio system. The audio system in this car is one of the best we've ever tested in this segment of, say, sub $70,000 cars. The frequency response is near textbook, and the audio system is great. So with that said, let's head to the shop and put this thing up in the air. Mark, this is the Lincoln Nautilus. This is a refreshed version of what was already on the market. They've now dramatically changed the interior of the Nautilus to keep it in line with the rest of the other Lincoln products, moving this into a more modern direction. And the Nautilus is actually a rebranded Lincoln MKX, which is based on the Ford Edge, which means this is on the CD4 platform, which means you get a steel front subframe with strut front suspension, a multi-link rear suspension, and adaptive dampers, but with no air ride. This is also a black label model, which means it's fully loaded. And you get two drivetrain options with the Nautilus. I had to think about what it was called for a second. You get a 4-cylinder EcoBoost, which is a 2-liter, which makes about 245 horsepower. Then you get the corporate 2.7-liter V6 EcoBoost engine, which makes 345 horsepower. You can get this as a front-wheel drive vehicle or a optional all-wheel drive vehicle.
You can get it front-wheel drive only?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
this
cool.
thing's hot. No, I mean, it's
cool.
hot because the engine's hot. I'm starting to sweat. It's quiet. It's built around being soft, compliant, that luxury cruiser. I don't know how I feel about this yet, Jack.
But I feel a lot more like Matthew McConaughey standing underneath of it.
Who's that?
He's a god. So Mark, we're in Lincoln's answer to the RX350, Acura MDX, X5, Q7, all the other premium mid-sized SUVs. And this is an incredibly competitive segment with a lot of very prestigious brands. And Lincoln, in the last couple of years, has been trying to revitalize who they are and get a more youthful demographic. This is a hard sell. And this is a hard sell for many, many reasons. And my biggest issue with this is its drivetrain. As I talked about in the interior segment, they tried. It's a really interesting place to be in.
The updated Lincoln interiors are way better than they used to be. I mean, they could still use some fit and finish improvements, like the knobs, buttons, and switches definitely still look and feel very parts bin Ford. But I think they're in the right direction. This is the right direction on the interior space, and the exterior does look good.
Yeah.
So I guess the thing is why would you buy this over those other competitors? That's my big problem.
And I don't have a good answer for you.
What did this cost again?
This is $68,000,
Oh my
and
God,
it's fully loaded, which
Okay,
you get
the
more.
Black label's the most expensive trim.
You get more standard than you would say on a X5 or Q7, but you don't get the premium drivetrain. You don't get a rear-wheel drive architecture. This is front-wheel drive based, and yes, it's got on-demand all-wheel drive. And your drivetrain options, you have the generic Ford 2.7 liter, V6 that's turbocharged, which makes good numbers, but it doesn't deliver power in a way that you are accustomed to in this segment of vehicle. There's a lot of delay, a lot of hesitation. It feels very turbocharged, or like the B58.
It doesn't feel
expensive.
like a luxury drivetrain. But the same argument could be made for something like the MDX, which is also front-wheel drive with torque factoring in the rear if you get the SH. But even the V6 in that feels more special.
It's got a good resonance,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it definitely has a better feel. And I'm thinking about the competitors, and I would say probably 6 or 7 out of 10 times you're going Audi, and you're going BMW in the luxury segment. I feel like the only people that are going to be getting this are the American car people that have come up with Lincoln, have come up with Ford, know this brand. They're going to love this for those probably intangible reasons. But in terms of an overall experience, this doesn't have a lot going for it other than it is amazingly supple.
It's not a bad car. That's not what I'm saying. This is a very, very good car.
It's a good car in a segment that other brands are doing better than this.
Yes.
And I think, the inside is, you can forgive some of that. You can forgive some of the technology, and the technology is way better than it used to be. I'm not quite sure. I can't put my finger on why you would choose the other brands. There's just something lacking here in feel and prestige or perceived quality or something.
So before we head into the final thoughts, I'm going to quickly summarize what this thing is going for. It is a very luxury-based SUV. It's very boat-like in a good way. It's a total cruiser. It isolates you well. There is reasonable body control. However, when you're in comfort mode and you hit a big bump, it kind of like wallows around.
It's a giant couch on wheels, and I think maybe that's the best thing that's going for it. It's super quiet, and it is extremely comfortable and floaty. And that's something, personally, for certain vehicles like this, that is a big pro. These things do not need to be stiff, sporty. You don't need to feel every bump on the road. You want to be removed from all of that. And traditionally, if you're driving this on the open highway or bad pavement, I like that about this, and that's one of the top reasons that I would get this over the other brands.
And the V6 offering that this car has is plenty powerful. It does get the job done, regardless how I feel about how it delivers power. It's plenty fast.
I will say before you get into the final thoughts, Jack, we get caught up on drivetrain a lot because we're in driving all these vehicles, and I think the average person that's going to get in here coming out of an older car, there's such a wow factor from the turbo motor, because it is instant gratification. People are going to be like, oh wow, that's quick, and I think that's the only thing they're going to think about it.
I don't disagree with you, Mark. So with that, let's get into the final thoughts.
All right, Jack.
Final thoughts on the Lincoln Nautilus Black Label. This is Lincoln's offering in one of the most competitive automotive segments, and that is the premium mid-sized luxury SUV. And with an as-tested asking price of $68,000, one might be asking, why would I buy this over something like a BMW X5, Audi Q7, or Lexus RX350? And, well, there's a simple reason. It is if you value Lincoln's approach to a luxury car and you like their exterior and interior styling. Their approach is this: a very luxurious, soft car with no sporting pretensions, tremendous seats, and a very quiet cabin. Plus, you have the added benefit of potentially lower running costs versus the German and Japanese rivals, because this is based on a Ford Edge. And with that, here are its negatives. Because it's based on a Ford Edge, it lacks a premium architecture, which you might expect for an asking price of $68,000. Plus, some of the switchgear and approach to the finer details is kind of lacking. So with that said, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.